Briggs stood just beyond the double glass doors of the roadside buffet, his fingers gently tugging at the brim of a weathered trucker hat. His reflection stared back at him. Grizzled, a little older than he remembered, his salt and pepper beard trimmed neatly against a tired jaw. He looked like a man who'd seen too much and spoken too little. With a slow breath, he stepped inside. This was store number 17. 17 out of the 20 restaurants he'd secretly visited over the past 6 weeks. Each time, he wore a different disguise. Sometimes a customer, sometimes a nervous new hire. This time, he would play the part of a weary traveler, just passing through. 8 years ago, he had taken a gamble on a dying chain of 5 family-owned buffets, small-town favorites teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. He poured everything he had into them. His savings, his sleepless nights, his hope that people still cared about real food and honest service. Today, there were 20, profitable, expanding. But success had its shadows. Whispers had grown into murmurs. Complaints about the food, about hygiene, about staff who barely made eye contact. Corporate audits came back clean. Too clean. Something wasn't adding up. This particular location, tucked behind a busy highway exit in Ohio, had never seen his face. Most of the employees thought the business was owned by a silent board of distant investors. Owen had always stayed in the background by design. Trust your team, he'd told himself. But lately, trust had started to feel like a risk he could no longer afford. He limped, just slightly, just enough to sell the illusion, as he walked in. Worn jeans, flannel shirt, a man no one would look at twice. He grabbed a tray and stepped into the buffet line. The glass sneeze guards were streaked with fingerprints and dried smudges. The fried chicken had a pale, rubbery sheen, and the macaroni curled at the corners, congealed from sitting too long beneath unforgiving heat lamps. "Go ahead, sir," a soft voice said behind him. He turned. A young woman, barely in her 20s, stood with a pair of metal tongs in hand. Her name tag read Naomi Vance. Her uniform was faded at the seams, her eyes flickering toward the kitchen like a bird watching the sky for a storm. "Thanks," Owen said with a kind smile. "Been here long?" 3 years, she said quietly, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Just trying to make it through lunch rush." Her tone held more than fatigue. It held resignation, the voice of someone who'd stopped expecting things to get better. Owen nodded and moved down the line. He started noticing more details. The mashed potatoes in 2 trays, one steaming, the other cold to the touch. A pan of lasagna with the top hardened and curling like dried leather. The chicken, still pale, was barely warm. He scooped small portions onto his plate and took a seat at a table in the far corner where he had a clear view of the kitchen doors swinging open and shut. That's when he noticed the man. Middle-aged, heavy-set, bald, gripping a clipboard like a badge of authority. His voice cut through the room, sharp, commanding, joyless. "Refill station 3. Wipe down the salad bar. Naomi, move faster." Owen watched, silent. The man barked like a drill sergeant, but never once said thank you. Not once. He picked at his food. The fish was sour, like it had been microwaved, then reheated again. Something twisted in his gut, and it wasn't just the food. A moment later, Naomi came over with a pitcher of water. "Everything okay, sir?" He leaned in slightly, lowered his voice. "Be honest with me. Is this food fresh?" Her face froze. A beat passed before she whispered, barely audible. I can't say. I'm sorry." Owen followed her eyes. They darted toward the kitchen, where the manager, Calhoun, if he remembered the name correctly, was shoving a tray of untouched chicken back through the doors. That look in Naomi's eyes wasn't fear, it was surrender. The kind of look you get when you've spoken up before. And it didn't change a thing. Owen stood slowly, making his way toward the restroom. As he passed the open kitchen door, a voice echoed out. "Wrap up what's left of that meatloaf. We'll serve it again at dinner." Another voice, younger, anxious. "But it's not safe, it's already—" said, "Wrap it. We're not wasting food just 'cause it's been out a few hours." Owen paused, then inched closer, just enough to see inside. Calhoun stood hunched over a tray of meatloaf, his finger jabbing toward a teen-aged cook who looked ghost-pale under the fluorescent light. The meatloaf looked like clay, dry, cracked, visibly abandoned. "Mr. Calhoun," the kid said quietly, "this doesn't feel right." "I don't care what it feels like. You want ours or not." Owen's stomach turned. Slowly, he walked back to his seat. He stared at his plate for a long time, then shoved it aside. 10 minutes passed. He watched. He listened. Then, without another word, he stood and walked toward the cashier. "I'd like to speak to the manager," he said, voice low and steady. A minute later, Calhoun appeared, wiping his hands on a stained towel. "Something wrong?" he asked, smiling like a man who'd rehearsed this line too many times. "Yeah," Owen said, his eyes narrowing. "I've got a few questions." Calhoun glanced at the line behind them. "You can call corporate if you have a complaint. I'm busy. I'll get someone—" "Don't worry about that," Owen muttered. He turned and walked out, jaw clenched. He sat in his rental car for 10 minutes, eyes on the horizon. Naomi's frightened glance, the trembling voice of the young cook, the dry meatloaf, the casual cruelty of a clipboard king. It played on a loop in his mind. He'd seen enough. Tomorrow, he'd return. Not as a customer, not as a ghost, but as the man who owned it all. Derek's voice sliced through the prep area with an edge already sharpened by irritation. "Prep needs help. You've handled a slicer before, right?" Owen, already donning his disguise with calm resolve, nodded. "Yeah." "Then get back there and see what Marcus needs." The prep kitchen was alive with motion. Dull fluorescent lights flickered overhead while the quiet hum of overworked machines competed with the rhythmic thud of chopping knives. A teenage girl stood at a stainless steel sink, peeling potatoes with slow, practiced hands. Her earbuds were in, but every so often her expression tensed, like the music wasn't enough to drown out her discomfort. At the cutting board stood Marcus, early 30s, lean and fast with his hands. His knife danced across a bed of lettuce with mechanical precision. He didn't look up as Owen approached. "New guy?" Marcus asked flatly, never breaking rhythm. "Yeah," Owen replied, rolling up his sleeves. "Just show me what needs doing." Marcus motioned with his chin toward a stack of trays. "Chicken thighs. Skin goes in that bin. Meat into the marinade. Gloves under the sink." Without another word, Owen got to work. For the first hour, conversation was non-existent, just the steady beat of prep work and the silent understanding of people too tired to waste breath. Still, Owen observed everything. The girl peeling potatoes had a slight limp, one she tried to hide every time she walked toward the sink. It wasn't dramatic, but it was there. A subtle grimace, a shift in weight, a hesitation that betrayed pain. At one point, Owen leaned in closer to Marcus and asked, "Is she all right?" Marcus paused just long enough to respond under his breath. "Twisted her ankle last week. Calhoun wouldn't give her time off, said if she could stand, she could work." Owen said nothing, but his hands moved slower, his jaw locked. The food wasn't the only thing rotting in this place. By 10:30, the line cook station erupted with motion. Derek stormed in like a man running on caffeine and tension. Clipboard in hand, he spouted off figures, yesterday's sales, today's projections, staffing numbers. It was all noise, designed to sound like control. Owen watched as Derek pulled a tray of sausage patties from the walk-in cooler. "Those from today?" Owen asked casually, trying not to provoke. Derek looked at him like he was stupid. "They're fine. Didn't all sell yesterday. We reheat 'em. Back out they go." They've already been cooked once. Derek's eyes narrowed. You here to work or audit me? Before Owen could answer, the back door slammed open. Calhoun entered with the same sour expression and his ever-present clipboard. He scanned the room like a general on the brink of war. Let's go, people. Doors open in 20. Salad bar better be full, and I don't want to see any of yesterday's slop still out. Marcus looked up, calm but firm. We're out of fresh greens. Truck's late. Calhoun didn't skip a beat. Then use what's left. Chop around the brown edges. It's not just brown, Marcus countered. It's wilted. But fluff it, add ice, make it look decent. You want your paycheck or not? Owen turned away, pretending to grab more gloves, while quietly taking it all in. The girl had stopped peeling. She was holding her ankle now, clearly in pain. Marcus noticed and reached for a nearby chair. Sit down, he said gently. You shouldn't be on that foot. Calhoun spun around. What's this? Break time already? She's hurt, Marcus replied, not backing down. I told you that last week. And I told you, Calhoun snapped, if she can limp, she can work. If she sits, she's off the clock. And then, Owen spoke instinctively. That's not policy. The room froze. Calhoun turned, his eyes hard and calculating. You new here? Second day? Owen didn't answer. Then keep your head down and your mouth shut. The girl looked down, ashamed. She blinked quickly, fighting something between pain and humiliation. Marcus handed her a bottle of cold water and helped her to the side. Owen didn't forget the look on her face. It was the same look Naomi had worn yesterday. Resignation. By lunch, the buffet line was bustling, but Owen's stomach churned. The trays were too familiar. That same meatloaf, now with a new top crust to mask the same lumpy shape beneath. The gravy had been stirred to hide the separation. Even the macaroni had been hastily rehydrated with water, steam rising from a lye. Calhoun circled like a vulture. He snapped at employees for letting tongs fall into dishes, demanded perfection in spoon placement. He didn't wash his hands, not even after touching raw poultry. When Naomi reminded him, gently, he waved her off. I've been doing this longer than you've been breathing. Later, during a lull, Owen pulled Naomi aside. Do you ever report this to corporate? Her eyes flicked nervously toward the hallway. People who report don't stay long. And the food reuse. She hesitated. I try to keep my section clean, but I don't control the kitchen. Has anyone gotten sick? There was a family. Couple weeks ago, they never came back, but no one filed anything official. How long's Calhoun been here? Almost 4 years. People come and go, but he stays. I think he knows someone higher up. Owen's thoughts darkened. Something deeper was festering here. Something protected. As the hours dragged on, he saw more. The dishwasher, Reggie, an older man with tired eyes and raw red hands, no gloves, no apron. They keep saying they'll order more, he muttered when Owen asked. In the break room, a faded corkboard bore safety posters from years ago, curling at the corners. The schedule was scribbled in pen, names scratched out and rewritten again and again. It spoke volumes without saying a word. People didn't last here. Around 3:00, a teenage boy approached Calhoun. Can I take my 15-minute break now? Calhoun checked the clock. Not now. Take it when we slow down. I've been here since 6, the boy protested. Then you should have eaten before. The boy walked away in silence, his shoulders slumped. Owen stepped outside, pulled out a burner phone and dialed his assistant. I need the employee files for this location, any complaints from the last 2 years, and find out who Calhoun's connected to. Back inside, Derek was shouting again. this time at Marcus over a missing inventory sheet. Marcus calmly explained it had been submitted digitally. "I don't care if you emailed it to the moon," Derek snapped. "If I don't see paper, it doesn't count." Owen leaned on the prep table, wiping his hands with a towel. "Lot of yelling for a missing sheet." Derek glared. "You don't get how things run here, do you?" "Maybe," Owen said, stepping away. "But I'm starting to." As the afternoon wore down, Owen found Naomi cleaning trays, her posture bent with exhaustion. She had done the work of 2 people all day. "Why do you stay?" he asked gently. "I need the paycheck, and I don't want to leave the kids here alone. Some of them don't have anyone looking out for them." Owen nodded slowly. "Well, you've got someone now." She looked at him, confused, but he didn't explain. He didn't need to. He left just before dinner prep, walked out the back instead of the front. As he passed the dumpster, he saw the young cook from earlier tossing a bag of spoiled lettuce. The kid looked up, startled. "Wasn't supposed to throw this out," he muttered, "but it stinks." Owen paused, then gave a small, solemn nod. "Then you did the right thing?" The boy hesitated, his eyes full of uncertainty. "Calhoun's gonna flip." Owen's voice was steady. "Let me worry about Calhoun." He walked out to his car without another word. In the solitude of the front seat, he pulled the company polo over his head, folded it neatly, and dropped it in the passenger seat. He sat still for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel with hands that had once built this company from nothing. He'd founded this place with a vision. Clean kitchens, fair wages, dignity at every level, from prep cook to cashier. What he'd seen today was more than a crack in the system. It was a betrayal of everything he stood for. This wasn't about one bad manager. It was about a culture that rewarded silence and punished integrity. He wouldn't let it stand. The next morning, just before the midday shift, Owen walked through the staff entrance, not as a shadow, but as himself. He wore a crisp button-down shirt tucked into pressed slacks, and his company ID hung plainly from his belt. No hat, no beard, no disguise. Just truth. Just presence. Reggie was heading in at the same time, his hands bare and raw again. "Forgot my gloves," he mumbled. Owen nodded, held the door open, and didn't say anything yet. Inside, the prep line was already buzzing with motion. Marcus was slicing brisket, his shirt clinging to his back with sweat, headphones hanging like tired reins around his neck. The girl with the injured ankle was nowhere in sight. Owen made a mental note and kept walking. He passed through the swinging doors and into the front dining area. Naomi stood near the dessert station, training a new hire on how to refill pudding trays. She looked up, and her eyes widened when she saw him. He gave her a small, silent nod, one that said, "I'm here. You're not alone anymore." Across the buffet line, Calhoun stood at his usual post near the carving station, arms crossed like a man convinced the world owed him control. Derek slouched behind the counter, his eyes glued to his phone while balancing a clipboard, like it might protect him. Owen didn't break stride. He moved straight to the center of the floor. He turned to a nearby crew member, a young woman wiping down the sneeze guard. "Would you please ask everyone to step into the break room? I need to speak with the full staff." His voice was calm, but there was weight behind it, an authority that couldn't be ignored. She hesitated, glanced at Calhoun, then nodded and moved off. Calhoun's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" he barked. Owen turned, locked eyes with him, and spoke quietly. "My name's Owen Briggs." Calhoun's brow furrowed. "Wait. I own this company." The air changed. You could feel it. Silence swept the room like a cold front. Calhoun's mouth opened, then closed. Owen didn't wait for a reply. "Break room, now." 10 minutes later, the cramped back room was full. Staff standing or sitting wherever they could. Some leaned against walls, others perched on crates. Naomi stood with her arms crossed. Marcus leaned against the sink, jaw tight. Derek clutched his clipboard like a life preserver. Calhoun stood in the center, expression unreadable, but his stance still defiant. Owen stayed near the door, his back straight, voice steady. I've spent the last 7 weeks visiting our stores, quietly, disguised, because I wanted the truth. The real truth, not the one polished for inspections, not the version crafted for corporate audits. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Yesterday I worked in this kitchen. The day before I came through as a customer. What I saw wasn't just disappointing, it was dangerous. And it ends today. Calhoun stepped forward, trying to assert control. I wasn't aware of any issues. Owen didn't raise his voice. You ordered expired meatloaf, reheated and sent back out. You served greens that should have gone in the trash. You denied breaks, ignored injuries, and created a culture of fear, a place where good people are afraid to speak up. Calhoun straightened. Everything I've done has been to keep costs down, meet targets. You did it while violating health codes, labor laws, and human decency. Owen turned to Derek. You knew. You signed off on reuse food. You watched people work hurt. Why? Derek hesitated. Corporate's been pushing margins. We're understaffed. I thought... You thought silence was safer, Owen said quietly. No one spoke. He looked around the room. Who here has ever felt pressured to serve food you wouldn't eat yourself? Hands went up. Naomi, Marcus, 2 others, even Reggie, hesitantly, and who's been denied breaks they were owed. More hands. Owen turned back to Calhoun. You're dismissed, effective immediately. You're not to interact with staff, customers, or vendors. Security is waiting outside. You'll receive no severance. Calhoun's face darkened. You can't just... I can, and I just did. He nodded toward the door. A plain-clothed security contractor stepped in and motioned toward the exit. Calhoun looked around, searching for an ally. No one moved. No one defended him. He left in silence. Owen faced Derek next. You're suspended pending a full review. If the audit confirms what I suspect, your employment will be terminated. Derek dropped the clipboard like it had burned him. He followed the second contractor out. The room was quiet again. Still, Owen spoke from the heart. This isn't the culture I built. I started this company with the belief that you can serve great food without cutting corners and treat people like people. He looked to Naomi. You showed integrity. You protected others. That matters. He looked at Marcus. You spoke up when it wasn't easy. That matters too. He addressed the entire room. No one else is being fired today, but things will change, starting now. He stepped aside and motioned toward the hallway. Let's move out front. We've got a full support team here. You're not short-staffed anymore. The room stayed still for a beat. Then slowly, people began to move. Not just because they had to, but because something had shifted. A door had opened. In the dining area, 3 temporary staffers Owen had flown in were already in place. Clean uniforms, calm energy. They greeted each worker with a handshake, not an order. Owen pulled Naomi aside near the salad bar. I want you to step into a lead role here. Temporary at first, 30 days. If it works out, it becomes permanent. You'll get a raise, training, hiring authority. Her eyes widened. I'm not sure. I'm ready. You are. You've been ready. You just haven't had the chance. He turned to Marcus. Same offer. Lead the kitchen. I'm sending 2 regional trainers to help. You're not alone. Marcus nodded, then added, we need gear. Gloves, tools. Half of it's busted or missing. It's already ordered. You'll have it by tomorrow morning, and from now on, if something's not safe, it doesn't go out, period. By 2:00, the store felt like a different place. The air was lighter, the food was fresh. Owen had ordered the entire buffet replaced, down to the last garnish. Marcus personally oversaw prep. Naomi floated between stations, helping, checking in on both staff and customers. Owen stood near the front, hands folded, watching it all unfold with quiet satisfaction. A woman in a green blouse approached him gently. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you the manager here?" Owen smiled softly, a different man than the one who had entered that buffet 2 days earlier. "Something like that," he replied. "No," Olin said with a quiet smile. "I just work here." The woman returned his smile, her eyes kind. "Well, whoever's in charge today, tell them this place hasn't looked this good in years." He nodded gently. "I'll make sure they hear that." As she left, Owen turned toward the kitchen where Marcus stood at the edge of the line, arms crossed, watching his team move with a new rhythm. Steady, focused, confident. "You're going to need 2 more hires," Owen said. "Take your time. Find the right people." Marcus exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "We'll build it up right." "You will," Owen said, his voice resolute. "And I'll be back. Not next week, not next month, but I'll be back. No warning." Marcus gave a lopsided grin. "We'll be ready." Owen stepped outside into the late afternoon light. The sun was low, casting long shadows over the wet pavement. He didn't feel triumphant. There was no victory lap, no big emotional release. But he felt something steadier, grounded, clear. The work wasn't done, but for the first time in a long time, it had truly begun. 3 weeks passed. The transformation at the Ohio location wasn't instant. Nothing worth keeping ever is. But it was undeniable. The temporary support crew remained for 2 full weeks, bridging the gap under Marcus and Naomi's steady leadership. Every schedule was rewritten from the ground up. Inventory systems were overhauled. Inspections, both internal and third-party, became random and rigorous. When Owen returned, it was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. No disguise, no staged walkthrough. He entered through the front doors, umbrella dripping. The air smelled cleaner, calmer. The energy had shifted. He stood just inside the foyer for a moment, taking it in. The buffet line gleamed, organized, freshly stocked, every tray full but not overflowing. No signs of the dry, crusted neglect he'd seen before. A young man at the carving station greeted him with a nod, slicing a fresh turkey breast with confidence. Owen waited until the lunch rush began to ebb. He wasn't here to test them. He was here to witness. In the break room, Marcus was hunched over the prep logs, his sleeves rolled up, thumbs streaked with penning. He looked up and gave a quick nod. "We're holding steady," Marcus said. "Still short a line cook and a dishwasher, but we're rotating smarter now. No one's being overworked." Owen hung his jacket on the back of a chair. "How's the team holding up?" "Better," Marcus said. "They're not watching the clock anymore, they're present." "Any issues?" Marcus hesitated. "One. A supplier tried to slip in lower-grade produce twice. Naomi flagged it and sent it back." Owen nodded. "That was the right call. She's sharp. Doesn't miss much." Naomi entered moments later, clipboard in hand, damp hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. She offered a quick smile and dropped the clipboard on the table. "Customer reviews are up 31% on Yelp, Google, Facebook, across the board. 3 returning guests specifically mentioned seeing a change." "You tracking that manually?" Owen asked. She nodded. "Started a log. Helps to see what's sticking." The binder she handed over was plain. No branding, no corporate shine, just raw, honest data. Dates, notes, highlighted receipts, customer comments clipped to surveys. Anyone pushing back? Marcus leaned against the wall. One of our former servers came back. Left 6 months ago. Said she heard things were different. We gave her another shot. She's working out. Owen turned to Naomi. You comfortable with the current crew? We're close, she said. But we've got a couple people not buying in. Names? She paused. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm not asking for gossip. I'm asking about impact. Chris Prep, late almost every shift. Doesn't temp food unless told. Doesn't clean his station. Documented every time. I've warned him twice. Third strikes termination. Owen nodded. Good, that's how it has to be. We're not running a fear-based operation, but we are holding standards. They rise or they leave. He checked the clock. Let's walk the floor. They started in the kitchen. The girl who had limped weeks ago was now moving smoothly across the prep area. Gloves on, hair secure, focus unwavering. She caught Owen's eye and gave a small wave. He returned it with a nod. Heart warmed. The dish station had new gloves hanging from a hook. Reggie moved a tray of sanitized cups, humming softly. His hands looked healthier. No more redness. How's supply? Owen asked. Everything I asked for came in, Reggie said. Even got those rubber mats. Could. In the dining area, a woman in her 60s seated near the window waved Naomi over. Naomi leaned in, listened, then returned, smiling. She said her granddaughter has a peanut allergy. One of the servers flagged it before she even ordered. Owen turned to Marcus. You run that training? Standard now. Allergen flags on day 1. I wrote the module myself. Owen raised his eyebrows. Send it to my office. We're rolling it out system-wide. Back in the kitchen, a small commotion pulled them toward the walk-in cooler. Naomi was stepping between Chris and a younger server. I'm not taking orders from some kid, Chris snapped. I didn't give you orders, the server said, standing firm. I asked you to label the chicken like we're supposed to. A worried-looking server tried to settle Bud. He found himself at Postvix, and I've been here longer than you've been shaving, Chris shot back. Naomi stepped in, firm but calm. Chris, we've talked about this. You're only in charge because the boss wanted a clean face up front. Owen stepped forward. That's enough. Chris turned, startled. You're serious? Dead serious. You're being let go. Repeated protocol violations. Disrespect. Unsafe practices. You're off the clock, effective immediately. Chris looked around, hoping someone would step in. No one did. Marcus stepped beside him. Come get your stuff. I'll walk you out. Chris muttered something under his breath, eyes catching Naomi's once more, then walked toward the back. Naomi exhaled. I didn't think it'd happen that fast. You gave him chances, Owen said. He made his choice. The young server stood quietly nearby. Owen turned to him. You handled that well. What's your name? Leon, 2 weeks in. Owen nodded. Keep it up. That's how standards grow. Later, in the office, Owen reviewed Naomi's notes. Each incident, each correction, clear, consistent, professional. You're ready, he said. Naomi blinked. You're sure? No hesitation. You've led with integrity, protected your team, delivered performance. Starting next pay cycle, you're officially general manager, full salary, full benefits. She sat slowly. I don't know what to say. Say yes, then keep doing what you're doing. She looked at Marcus, who smiled. Told you this wasn't temporary. Owen turned to him. You're staying in the lead kitchen role? Marcus nodded. Yeah, I want to build something here. Haven't felt that in a long time. You've got my backing. If you need more staff, more training, you let me know." They stood together in silence. Partners now. Builders. Believers. Owen glanced at the updated logbook one last time. "We're not just fixing a store, we're raising the bar." Naomi met his eyes. "Then let's raise it." Becerra. Owen left just before dinner shift. No fanfare, just a few quiet thank yous. A last walk through the kitchen, a look exchanged with each of the people now carrying the torch. Outside, the storm had passed. The lot was wet, but the clouds were breaking. He paused at his car as a family approached the doors. 2 parents, 3 laughing children. The youngest held the door open for his sister, grinning. Owen got in, started the engine, and looked back once. This time, he wasn't driving away from a failure. He was driving toward the future he had always envisioned. One decision, one store, one person at a time.